Hello everyone and welcome to Ufta Games, and we're here with another video for my Pirates of New England custom set for Pirates CSG, and today we're looking at the American faction for this set. Now the Americans were the second focus faction for the set, so I went ahead and did some more than 2 game pieces for the set, and I had a very clear goal with the Americans. I first wanted to go ahead and do game pieces that were built around 2 events during the American Revolution, and that was the Battle of Valcour Island and that was the Penobscot Expedition. 2 events in the American Revolution that I feel don't get as much attention as I feel they should, and I felt that it was a good way to kind of go ahead and shed some more light on history. And then mechanically, I went ahead and wanted to focus on cheaper and more unique gunships for the American faction. The Americans are pretty much a gunship heavy faction, but a lot of their things are built around being very expensive. And I kind of wanted to provide cheaper gunships with kind of unique things to them, in order to kind of really help add a little bit more flexibility to the Americans, to add a little bit more things to help offset their higher costing ships in their faction. Just try to really help add some more support ships, I guess is the right word to say. So we had two goals, and you'll see that. You also know with the British focus factions, the British also had their game pieces that were based off of these 2 events as well and everything. The Penobscot Expedition and the Battle of Valcour Island, with Sir George Collier and the HMS Raisin Bull being in the Penobscot Expedition, and John Shank and the HMS Inflexible being part of the Battle of Valcour Island. 2 very fascinating historical events. I highly recommend doing research on them. But we'll go ahead and get right into the game pieces. We'll first talk about the Warren, which is a American ship. This ship served during the Penobscot Expedition, and it is 12 points. It has 3 mass, 5 cargo, L speed, 3L, 3S, 3L cannons. Once per turn before you give this ship an action, roll a d6. On a 5 or 6, the ship may be given the same action twice, and this ship gets +1 to her scuttle rolls. And her flavor text is: the Warren was tasked by the Continental Congress to ferry and protect the troops whose mission is to seize Fort George from the British. Now, this is kind of a ship that's just once again meant to be a cheaper but effective ship for the Americans. It's kind of a little bit of a hybrid with the 5 cargo, kind of meant to go ahead and give it a little bit of so maybe you can either add a lot of crew to this to make it a very effective gunship, or you just make it a good hybrid American gunship for your fleets as well. The +1 to her scuttle rolls is based off of her history, the fact that she was scuttled during the Penobscot Expedition. Just went ahead and kind of play into that, and just gave it a very basic, cheap ability that can make it very effective. I think this ability is a very, very good, effective ability for a ship to have. So we have that. So Warren, just the first in the idea of the cheaper support gunships for the American faction. And this is the paint job I did for the Warren. Kind of a little bit more darker, grittier sails with a green on dark brown paint job. Next up, we have the Trumbull. It is this is a ship that served during the Battle of Alcor Island. It is 10 points, has 3 mass, 3 cargo, L plus S speed, 2L, 3S, 3S cannons. It is a galley, and it's also a gunboat. Once per game, this ship may add S plus S to her base move until end of turn. And her flavor text is, the Trumbull help leads the American Champlain fleet to safety. So this is the first game piece utilizing the once per game mechanic in this game, where basically it can only be used once per game, and pretty simple. It's meant to be a powerful but cheaper way to utilize a ability. I found a lot of my playtesters really would use this during critical time, or use this to catch up to a gold runner or to a gunship that they were chasing down and everything. The adding S plus S till the end of turn really added for that key moment and everything, and I felt it added a level of strategic depth to the game, where do I use this now? Do I use this later? If I don't use this now, will I never get another chance to use it? So on. I think it added a really cool depth to the game for that purpose. I also really wanted to do a galley for the American faction, because as far as I know, I don't think the Americans have a galley. But the Trumbull was an actual galley for the American factions during the Battle of Alcor Island. So I felt it was a good chance to use it, and of course using the gunboat keyword as well to really utilize that gunboat keyword. This is the paint job. I feel like this was the most basic paint job I did. I didn't really have a lot of inspiration for this one, I don't feel like, when it came to the paint job. Mechanically, I really enjoyed design, but paint job wise, I was like, I don't know. So I didn't really come up with it. I think it's okay, I guess, but I think I could have done a lot better. This was one of the last ships I did, though, so maybe I was just a little bit more in the rush, and I just felt like I could have done a little better job with that one. And then we have the Royal Savage, which was also a ship that participated in the Battle of Alcor Island. Now, this ship went through a lot of play testing. It is 12 points, 2 mass, 3 cargo, S plus S speed, 2 L guns. It is a schooner, a gunboat, and it has a ability which is opponent ships with an S of the ship may only perform shoot actions. Can be a pretty devastating ability. English ships also get +1 to their counter rolls against this ship. So, and its flavor text is, the Royal Savage was originally a British ship. She was then raised and rebuilt to serve the Continental Navy on Lake Champlain. She has since been tasked with harassing and enticing the British into engagement. So this ship originally was pretty boring, and then we tried playing around to do some things, and we were like, we just kept having the issue where it just was boring. And we were like, how do we not make this ship boring? How do we add some depth to the ship? How do we make it something that people were like, oh man, I want to try that out? And so then we looked into the history of the ship. It was, as I said before, it served during the Battle of Alcor Island. And one of the things it did very early on was went ahead and enticed the British to engage it in order to engage the main fleet, which the American ships were trying to go ahead and get the British to fight them, or else they would go ahead and go right on by them and continue on to lay siege to various strategic locations in the American Revolution. So we decided to make it something where if this ship gets within range of S, that the opponent's ships are only gonna be able to perform shoot actions. So it's the idea of playing into that history of the ship, while also being an ability that's just something that can be very useful. We found that there's definitely strategies to counter this for sure, and were definitely found to be used. But at the same time, this was a ability that players also found to really enjoy and thought it was a cool addition to the American faction, and really enjoyed going ahead and trying to ship out. I saw a couple different things that people did. They would use this ship to pin down a enemy gunship, prevent it from moving, to go ahead and attack a something else. Or I saw this ship being used to hunt down gold runners. Became very powerful in that perspective in hunting down gold runners. So a lot of people really enjoyed using this ship in their fleets and found some pretty cool uses for it. And of course, there were some pretty, certainly some pretty good counters as well to it. Cancelers, L range cannon cancelers, which because we made it all L range, so on. And then it also enticed players to be a little bit more careful in their positioning, basically because you didn't want to get within S of this ship, because you might get trapped. So players would, when engaging the ship, would be a little bit more cautious in how they moved their ship in order to make sure that they were within L range but not S range of this ship, in order to go ahead and try to take it out from there. So pretty fun to build and pretty fun to design, and just a really cool ship with a cool history behind it during the Battle of Valcour Island. Go on to crew. We have Paul Revere. Now, Paul Revere is linked to the Warren. He has 4 points. He has the Cannoneer keyword, and once per game, one crew or ship with an L of this ship cannot use its ability that turn. Now, Paul Revere is one of my favorite founding fathers, though some people might not consider him a founding father, but he was still a very very important figure during the Revolution, and not just for his ride too. Now, the reason why I have him in this set is because the Penobscot expedition, which was an event that is heavily influenced this set, he was a part of, and I really thought it was kind of cool. He was a artillery officer for the expedition, and also designed brass cannons for the American Revolutionary War effort as well. And so I really wanted to add him to the set. Like I said, I really like Paul Revere. I can find him to be a fascinating figure, and I really wanted to go ahead and put him in the set. And I think Cannoneer plays into the idea that he was an artillery officer. And then I wanted to give the Americans a canceller as well, with the idea of the Cursed. Because as far as I know, there's no canceller for the Americans. I could be wrong, though. I just can't remember. I couldn't remember while I was designing if there was or not. But still, we went ahead and gave it a once per game canceling effect. And to up the fact that it's only a once per game, we made it so that it can be within L of this ship instead of within S of this ship. So, Paul Revere, pretty cool. Oh, and his flavor text, by the way, apologize, is: the sharp-tongued and stubborn Paul Revere is hated by his peers, but his blacksmith skills have been of tremendous use serving as an artillery officer. And then we have Benedict Arnold. Now, this might be a controversial game piece. I don't know. The reason why I chose him was purely to play into a mechanic that I wanted to try. We'll see how it goes. People might not like the idea of Benedict Arnold being in the game and everything. Who knows? I really like the way this game mechanic worked out, though, and he just plays very well into that idea of the game mechanic, and the fact that he was very much a seafaring person before the war, and the fact that he was the commander of the American Continental Fleet in Lake Champlain during the Battle of Valcour Island, just all played into using him. But we'll get into his ability, which is he's a 0 points, and he is linked to the Royal Savage. He has the Captain keyword, And his ability is every time the ship takes a hit, roll a d6. On a result of 1 or 2, transfer this crew to opponents whose turn it is home island. This crew is worth 3 gold, 1 on an opponent's home island. So basically, he's a 0-point captain. So once again, this is playing into the fact that I wanted to give the Americans a chance to help offset the fact they had a lot of expensive gunships. So by giving the Americans a 0-point captain, it plays into the idea of helping offset those higher costs for the Americans, while at the same time he runs the risk when you're using him, because anytime the ship takes a hit, you have to roll a d6, and if you get a 1 or 2, then that opponent who made that hit is going to go ahead and take that crew, put it on their home island, and it's an instant 3+ gold to that opponent. So it plays into the idea of Benedict Arnold's history, where he was part of the American Navy, and American Army, but he also eventually betrayed the American Revolutionary cause, and so it just plays into the history very well, and I really wanted to do this game mechanic of giving the Americans a very cheap captain they can use, and I felt this was the perfect opportunity to do so. And so Benedict Arnold's history just plays very well into that idea of the game mechanic that I really wanted to do. Once again, this was a very popular game piece amongst my play testers. This was pretty much nailed down right from the get-go. We changed around the negative ability of this crew. It was always a 0-cost captain. That was always the intention, but it was always nailing down how would the negative ability work. And we eventually worked it out to this negative ability through the play testing. This seemed to work out the best. It offered that high risk, high reward. You're getting a free captain, but there's also that chance that you could lose some and give your opponent gold. 3 extra gold can make a matter of victory for some games. So definitely playing into that. And I don't believe I showed the Royal Savage, by the way. Pretty simple paint job. White bottom with a light brown, and I did green sails. I don't know, just kind of wanted to do green sails. So, pretty cool. Anyway, that's the American faction. The second focus faction for this set. I hope you guys enjoy, and be sure to check out the other videos.